Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Class Zero Soldiers podcast. I am your usual host, Zero, and as always, I'm joined by my buddy Soldier. How's it going, man?
It's going, dude. Happy to be here as always. I'm going to get right into it.
Go for it.
So I just got to the point in Persona 5 Royal where you can choose to potentially date one of the characters, and obviously everybody has their own views on that. But I always see myself as the character for these ones. I don't know. Persona games typically I self-insert.
Yeah, it's a role-playing game. That makes sense.
Yeah, and I mean, what's nice is that they make most of their main characters very neutral anyway. So, it's easy to do. And I got to the point with one of the older characters that I could have,
Was it Tai?
No.
Really?
I dated Tai. In my first
Vanilla.
P5 vanilla playthrough on PS4, I believe. And yeah, I didn't play the PS3 one like I'm sure some daredevils did, but
Well, I mean, it launched simultaneously on 3 and 4, right? Like it was a like cross-gen launch title.
what's interesting, it's not that the PS3 was totally done, but it was past the launch of the PS4. So funny enough, it came out in Japan, and then it later got, I think, a PS3 release. I could be wrong though. Maybe you're right. They did come out at the same time. I don't know. But either way, that game runs at 30 frames. Probably similar to the Switch version.
Yeah.
Anyway, I didn't go for Tai this playthrough. I think I don't know who I might go with. And to be honest, I think I might go with no one, which is very I don't think I've ever done that for a Persona game. I don't think I ever have, just because it's fun to just fuck around or whatever.
Just go the bromance route.
Yeah, I know, right? I wonder if they're gonna
just hang out with Ryuji all summer.
Apparently they're thinking about, maybe, who knows? People are talking about, so I have no idea, but people are talking about them bringing back the Yosuke romance that was shelved for P4. There was supposed to be potentially some because of leaked game data and not leaked, but just dug up data and voice lines. There's actually voice lines that do kind of insinuate all that. So it's like, okay, cool. I'm glad that they were thinking this way back in 2008 or 9, right, when they were developing it at least. So it's like, who knows where that'll go? But no, it's Kawakami. A lot of people love Kawakami. She's a very big. I know she has her own little fan club and stuff. And it's not that I actually dislike the character. She is actually quite a wonderful character storyline wise. And
just hate her design, honestly.
That's just.
I don't like her hair. I don't know what it is. I just don't like the messy looking hair.
It's interesting because she's got her maid hair, and her maid.
I hate that one even worse.
Job. That one I do not like. I think her normal one is fine. Okay. It does feel. It's interesting, right? Because as a teacher, I wouldn't if I was going to college and she was a teacher, I probably wouldn't really go crazy about her. But I really like her story. Her story's cool, and I was like, yeah, let me just not go forward with this. And you lose your chance. I think in that game, if you have a chance, I think it's that moment, and then that's it.
9.1, and you get to choose whether you want to do the platonic route or the romantic one.
Exactly. I like Haru as a character.
I think it varies per character. It's usually like the 8th or 9th level.
Yeah.
I think it's different for each of them.
That's probably true. And I mean, I like Haru as a character a bit more than Kawakami. So I mean, if I were to probably make a choice, it would be Haru. But that's what I've been playing just recently. How about you?
Nice. Well, I finished Donkey Kong Bonanza recently. It's been about a week and a half to 2 weeks now as of this recording that I finished it. And when I say finish, I mean finish. I 100%ed the game. I got every single fossil, every single Bonandium gem, and every single... What is the other collectible? I'm already forgetting. The me the fossils, bananium.
MacGuffin?
Oh my god. For the life of me, I can't think what the other collectible is.
I'm sure it's just another
I forgot already.
MacGuffin name. Like is it Mario themed or is it more Donkey Kong themed?
Oh, it's Donkey Kong, so
Yeah.
it's oh man, what is it? It was oh my god, this is gonna bother me. I cannot remember what the other collectible was.
Just look it up real quick. And yeah, I think that's cool that you've been playing it a lot. I have seen some people get burnt out, like that played the new Donkey Kong Bonanza game, and like by hour 20, 30-ish, they're kind of like they have to take a break, and I don't know if it's just because they binged it or like they don't have the stamina for it. But I have seen some posts recently about that, and I'm sure they're just loud posts and maybe not a majority.
Oh, it was the outfits. That was the other thing. I didn't really think of that as a collectible, but yeah, I've got all the outfits because one of the Banandium gems requires you to not only find every fossil, but you also had to spend every fossil to unlock all of the outfits. And the game is structured in a way where in each world, it's almost like the purple coins in Odyssey, where there's exactly a set amount in each layer. And there's clothes that are exclusive to that layer shop. And if you collect every single one, you will have typically just enough
to get everything.
No, not typically. It's like everyone. Like you can not only buy the gear, but you can also upgrade it because they do have stats, so you can upgrade them. And I didn't realize this till like halfway through the game, but like there will be like the normal version of an outfit and then like 2 alternate colors. But I noticed you could only upgrade the normal version of it, and I'm like, oh, that's weird. So if I want any of the alternates, I'm going to lose out because those can't be upgraded. But when you upgrade the default one, it actually upgrades the other ones too. So they sync up to whatever level the default one is. So I thought that was really cool. It wasn't really intuitive. I don't think it explained it anywhere. But yeah, so if you can, I think level 3 is like the max. So you level out the default one, then all of the alternates will then be level 3. But yeah, there's just enough fossils in every layer to buy every gear piece and upgrade them all. Oh, I'm stupid. It's the CDs, the discs. That was the other collectible.
Does those have songs for Pauline, or how do those work?
You can get these little things called like hideouts, I think they're called, or like little bases. And in your bases, if you have at least 2 or more on a layer, you get a little fractone, little gem-looking dudes that can basically emulate any of the shops on that layer. So like if you warp to one of your bases, you could just do all your shopping there. You don't have to go to like wherever the main hub is on that layer, which is nice because sometimes the shops can be pretty far apart. Or if there's multiple sub layers, if there's like 4 or 5 sub layers in like a world, you don't have to like jump to another floor to get to the shops. So you can emulate all the shops there. Nice. They have the same stuff.
Yeah. Basically, just make a duplicate.
They got the item shop. Yeah, exactly. It's the same thing as if you were to go to the hub, but you also have your bed where you can rest in, and this is a cool system. The more hideaways you have in the game, the more bonus you get for your health. So it's kind of like Breath of the Wild, where if you slept in a nice bed or you ate a certain meal, you'd get those yellow hearts that were like temporarily extended your maximum hearts. That's how they did it in Bonanza, where if you have, I think it's like 6 or 7 hideaways in a layer, that would give you like a bonus 5 hearts. So you can extend your max health even further beyond.
That's nice. But are those temporary or are they permanent?
No, they're temporary. So like once you lose them, you
it's
don't get them again.
The yellow hearts in Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah, that's exactly what they are. But again, it doesn't cost you anything to sleep in any of the beds in your house. It only costs you gold to build it the first place, and they get progressively expensive the more you have in a layer. But like once you've made it, you could just keep using it. So like if you get low on health, just warp to a base and
I've never even heard of the base aspect online in my mongering. I've never even once heard anybody bring that up, so I had no idea about this entire concept mechanic. I had no. That's cool.
It's one of the underrated aspects of the game, I'd say. I think they showed it in like the treehouse.
Okay.
I don't know if they like actually like detailed it in any of the directs or the pre-release stuff, but long-winded way to just say one of the other things at your base in the last little venue is a little record player. And you can talk to the record player and choose any of the discs you've unlocked,
Mhm.
and you could play that song. It's basically got the whole game soundtrack there. It sounds a little like, I mean, it's a record player, so this is funny. It sounds like slightly lower quality than if it was just playing in-game,
Really,
which is a nice
they
touch.
go that far? That's amazing.
They do. But if you want to listen to the full thing, like, you can play it on that menu to hear it in like full quality, but there's also, I won't spoil it for you, but there's a later layer where you can play them in full quality.
Ooh.
So I got every collectible, 100%ed the game. It honestly is my game of the year. I did not think I would say that. I absolutely loved Expedition 33. It was such an impactful game. But
Yeah.
the final sequence in Donkey Kong Bonanza has to be the greatest final sequence of any 3D platformer game I've ever played. It is so good. They stuck the landing and then some. I don't want to spoil it if you haven't played it. Those of you out there, if you're thinking about getting Donkey Kong Bonanza, just do it. The gameplay loop is really addictive. Every layer is so different. There's tons of content, but you're not compelled to participate in all the content, which is also really nice. There's speedruns where I don't even think you actually need Bonandium gems to beat the game. I think
A
you
lot of
just,
optional stuff.
yeah, you can literally skip all of the Bonandiums and the upgrades and stuff and just beat the game without it. So there's tons of stuff to do, and then the ending sequence is so worth it. It's such a good payoff.
That's really good to hear. I wonder how it'll be. And do you think that compared to Mario Odyssey, how was your stamina throughout it? Like, what would you say? Like, did you just binge it from beginning to end, or did you take any breaks?
That's an interesting question. So I feel like I was probably, I probably marathoned Odyssey a bit more than I did DK Bonanza, but I didn't really take any breaks from Bonanza. Like, there were some times where I'd want to change a pace and I'd boot up like Bravely Default or Fantasy Life or something. But like, I never really like stopped playing for more than like a day or two at a time, and then I'd be like, all right, I want to play some Donkey Kong. Like,
Okay.
it's got enough of a hook to keep you playing. So
You still had a hankering, and you still had a moment to allow yourself to get a hankering for it, and then go in
yeah,
and like play it. It's not like you woke up, played, went to work, played after, like,
yeah.
back to back.
I've loved my time with Bonanza, and I think one of the reasons why I haven't really taken any big breaks, and thinking back on it, the only real breaks I took, like I said, maybe a day or two, were like, I had some pretty long sessions. I would play for like 5-6 hours straight. And I didn't talk about this yet. Before we move to our main topics, I did want to throw this out there. This has become a trend in a lot of the Switch 2 games. Is there's like a little brother mode or a little sibling or a kid mode where like it's multiplayer, but it's not like full-fledged multiplayer where they have like major influence on you. Like, for example, in this one, you can play, the second player can play as Pauline, and they can aim like her words, like she shouts words and they show up like with the letters spelling out the word, and they're a projectile. And you can hover the cursor over different like elements and absorb it. That way her shots have that element. So gold has an explosive property in this game. So if she absorbs gold, all her words are gold and they explode things when she shoots them. So it's a lot of fun. I played that way a lot with Janora. She really loved playing that way.
Ah,
So that was a cool way. Like, if I was playing, she would jump in and play with me.
that's adorable. Is that like the comic book pow wow type of words that you
Yeah,
see in the air
exactly.
kind of thing?
Yeah,
Okay.
it was like ha or
Yeah.
yeah or
I think
yeah,
I've
stuff like
seen
that.
something like that, and I thought that was really.
Mhm.
I didn't know that was Pauline. Okay, cool.
Yeah. And I found this out. I didn't realize this first, and again, I'm sure they show this at a presentation. I just wasn't paying attention. But you can either use a regular controller for Pauline, or you can take the Joy-Con 2 and put it in mouse mode and use it like a mouse pointer and just click and point.
I think that's awesome. What is the cursor like?
It's like a reticle, like a circle with a dot in it, like a reticle, like a target reticle.
Oh, I understand. Okay.
And like,
That's,
if you hover over an absorbable element, it'll pop up with a little text above the reticle saying what it is. So it'll say pure gold if it's gold, and then you absorb that.
that's cool. So it's a small, almost Dex like kind of identifier.
Yeah, exactly. It's a lot of fun. It's nice to have that little mode. But it is my game of the year. We need to talk a little bit more. We need to zoom out a little bit and talk more macro. It's been about 2 months since the Switch 2 came out, and I think we have enough sample size now to kind of properly grade the launch of the Switch 2. We Most of the launch window games are either out or have confirmed dates. As of this recording, the only game left on what I would consider the launch window is the Kirby and the Forgotten Land DLC. That comes out at the end of this month. I think it's like August 28th. $20 for the upgrade pack, or 80 if you're buying the game and the upgrade. But let's run through and talk about it. So Switch 2's launch, it seemed initially like it was going to be super, super packed. And it's like, man, if these are just the day one games, imagine what we're going to get in the follow-up weeks and months after that. And there's a little anxiety growing in the Nintendo community now that, okay, well, we got the games that we knew about during the Switch 2's reveal direct back in, what was it, April? So, like, all those games are basically out or have a date. I haven't really gotten anything major since then. We've gotten 2 presentations. We had a partner direct and an indie showcase. Neither one was a particularly strong showing. The third-party one was okay. If you're an RPG fan, it was probably a solid B+ for you. They announced quite a bit in terms of RPGs there. You know, we had the what is it called? The Adventures of Elliot, the Zelda-like game in HD 2D. We're getting a new Octopath Traveler game. Excited for that. They started off with Monster Hunter Stories 3, which blew my mind, and it looks so freaking good. That was my game of the show, and they opened with it. So it's like they opened with Stories 3, and I'm like, man, if they're opening with this, they must have some killer stuff in the works.
Last time I came to your place, you were playing Stories 2, so I found it super ironic that it started with 3.
Right.
Anyway,
No
what
kidding.
else? What else?
So some of the other announcements, there's a lot of third-party stuff there, but nothing like big. They had Just Dance there. The one big one, and this is a major one, it's one that, I'm pretty sure you and I have already predicted this in a previous show. Persona 3 Reload officially coming to Switch 2 in October. I think it's like a week before my birthday it comes out, so that's really cool. That's a big announcement, but we haven't seen any of like those other big blockbuster games aside from that. We've gotten a few. So just going back to the launch, we've gotten things like the Yakuza games. We got Cyberpunk, which is doing really well on Switch, especially because it's a physical cartridge that has the whole game on it, which we're finding out now 2 months later is kind of a unicorn with third parties. They don't want to pay the price to have a full cartridge. Game key cards are kind of the only option if you don't want full digital. And we're going to have to talk about that. That's a whole topic on its own.
Yeah, because smaller games, it kind of sucks for the publishing of those, because now it's just the bigger one, or you just get a game key card. And speaking of P3R, is that one on game key card? I think it is, right?
I'm pretty sure it's going to be a game key card, yeah. They have announced it.
Yep.
I can pretty much count on one hand the third-party games that are not game key cards. Rune Factory, Guardians of Azuma is one. Cyberpunk is one. And off the top of my head, that's it. I don't know of any other third-party games.
Leave it to CD Projekt Red. They've been at the helm of that in
they really
the rest
have.
of their other
they showed
releases.
up big on the Switch.
Oh yeah, but they've been great about it. I mean, I don't know if you know about kind of a rarity right now with Cyberpunk. Not that it's rare, like it's worth a lot, but original PS4 versions of Cyberpunk are actually somewhat valuable just because it was taken off digitally.
Oh, interesting.
So those physical copies are the only versions of them. The Xbox didn't have that issue. Microsoft just kept it on their store, but because of its poor performance, Sony actually just took it down. So it's just kind of interesting, like you just never know with these. That's why The Witcher 3 sold really well, the complete edition on Switch 1, and that was,
I have it.
That's a very valuable. I would say valuable in a way where there's a lot of value packed into the cart, but maybe even valuable in the other sense where down the line, I can see that cartridge being worth something. Maybe not right now, but just maybe down the line, right? Who knows what happens with what, right? But
And right now, I don't think it's worth a lot. Not because it's bad, or
Yeah.
mostly because it's not really rare. Like CD
Yeah.
Projekt Red produced a ton of
Yep.
copies of The Witcher 3 on the
They
Switch, and
did.
not to say it didn't sell well. It did sell well on Switch, but they produced so many that anybody that wants one can get one at a pretty reasonable price. You could probably pick up a copy on Amazon right now for like 30 to 40 bucks for the complete edition on Switch.
I just hope. Did you do that survey recently that Nintendo had out
Did
in order to? I did too. I did the same day.
So for those who are unaware, Nintendo did send out a survey. It kind of spread like wildfire on the internet, and they closed the survey like a few
Within
days later
20,
because
yeah, well, 48 hours. It wasn't even
yeah,
out for that much.
no, but basically it was asking feedback on would you be more likely to buy digital or physical, and also compared, are you more likely to buy physical on Switch or other consoles, or digital on other consoles
Yep.
or Switch, and basically asking for feedback on that. So the good news is, the silver lining is it sounds like there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Nintendo is taking in this feedback because they've noticed that, players aren't really happy with game key cards. They aren't really selling well either from everything that I've been seeing online. Like, there's been they've been some of the poorest performing games on Switch 2. And it's not because the old adage of, oh, nobody buys third party on Switch 2. I mean, Rune Factory was one of the best sellers in the launch days. Fantasy Life as well helped sell. I think it sold like 500,000 copies in the first like week or two, which is a lot for a smaller game like that. Like, those games the third-party games do sell well, and Cyberpunk doing incredibly well because it's all on a cart. But some of the other ones that didn't fare as well, you've got like the Hitman game, Yakuza, I think did well, although I think most people bought that digitally. But my point is,
Yeah.
game key cards are not popular, and it's not just basically, I think Nintendo thought initially that it was going to be kind of a vocal minority thing where everybody complains about them online, but
Yeah.
then
Like we'll
consumers will
just
actually
they
buy
were
them.
probably like, we'll just deal with some of the heat
Yeah,
and then we'll move on. Like it'll just become the norm. And you know what?
yeah,
It's not to say that that might still not happen, but I really do like. I have to appreciate where it's due, the effort of putting a survey out like that in order
yeah.
to get research and comparative data that they can take to their higher ups and investors and go, hey man, we might need to actually change this down the line, like maybe not right away, but we want maybe some change, because you're seeing how people are reacting. At least I can tell. It's like, damn.
Mm-hmm. But soldier, wait, there's more. So it's not just the survey that's given people some hope. Macronix, I believe, is the name of the company that produces the chips for Switch 2. There
Okay.
was a report kind of during the launch that basically they produce a 64 gigabyte cart and game key card, and that's it. And again, I'm not really blaming Nintendo for the game key card thing, because realistically, they only did this to appease third parties. All of Nintendo's first party games are on a physical cartridge. So, and even then, a step further, all of the Switch 2 edition games are double carts. You could put it in a Switch or a Switch 2, and it'll play fine on either one. So it kind of reminds me of the Game Boy Color era. We talked about this on our last episode, I believe.
And that's because right now the ones that are cross-compatible like that, they have a version of itself on that platform, right? Like obviously you can't put something that's on Switch 2.
No, that's what I mean. The Switch 2 edition games that are specifically upgrades
Ah,
on Switch 2, those
yeah.
ones are very much like the
The old
early Game Boy Color
Game
games.
Boy Color Pokemon games, or like
Uh-huh.
Wario Land 2, where it's like Wario Land
Link's
2.
DX.
Yeah,
Link's Awakening
exactly.
DX, rather.
Right.
They could play on either one, and if you popped it in a Game Boy Color, you would get the color. And it wasn't just like the 4 shades that you would get by putting a regular Game Boy into a Game Boy Color. It actually had their programming in there to utilize the color screen on the Game Boy Color.
The joy of that, comparable to what we're talking about with Switch 2, is you can still play it on your old Game Boy.
Yeah.
If you need to, right? Yeah.
You could take Breath of the Wild Switch 2 edition,
Yep.
put that cartridge in your Switch, and play Breath of the Wild on your Switch 1. So I think it's really cool. But getting back on topic, the reason I wanted to mention that is that Nintendo never had any intention of using the Game Key card. They knew they were just going to make their games, put it on a regular cartridge, and they're going to do what they do, business as usual. They made the Game Key cards for third parties. But we had the survey, so they realized that, it's not vocal minority. General consumers seem to be pushing back, which I'm very impressed by. Vote with your wallet almost never works, but it sounds like that it's getting to the point where the votes are in and the favorite candidate did not win, and so it's kind of nice to see that feedback is reaching them in both with the survey and the actual purchases. But the other piece of good news is that Macronix, again, the maker of the cartridges, in one of their, I think it was like a financial investors meeting or something along those lines, they mentioned that they're looking to expand the type of cartridges that they make so that they can include like 32 and 16 gigabyte cartridges as well, which means third parties would have cheaper options to go full physical if they want. And this is all going to compound into what I think is going to be just the perfect storm of everyone course correcting. The game key cards didn't sell well in the initial run. There's more options now available, so they'll be cheaper to go for the physical option. Nintendo's gotten the data from that survey, and they can basically tell publishers and third parties like, hey guys, I know you guys like these game key cards because they're cheaper to produce and you get more profit margins, but we have the data that our players don't like them.
Mm-hmm.
You're more likely to sell your game on our console if you do produce a full physical cartridge. Because I'll be honest, man, we've talked about this before. Game key card is supposed to kind of be like the best of both worlds with physical and digital, but it's also the worst of both worlds. You don't save any storage on your console because you have to download the whole game.
Yep.
And you don't get the convenience of a digital game where you can easily hot swap them and move to another game without taking a cartridge out of your Switch too, which is what you have to do. They work like a physical game in the sense that you have to have it physically there, but it works like a digital game in the sense that you have to reserve that storage on your console. And some of them games are big, man. I think It Takes Two, or Split Fiction rather, not It Takes Two. That one's not out on Switch 2 yet. Split Fiction is like 71 freaking gigabytes, man.
Which it's the same makers, right? That make
Yeah,
both games. Yeah, 70 is a large file size.
We got Call of Duty coming out later this year, bro.
And that's over 100.
200 gigabytes.
Yeah.
So that feedback has been very helpful. I think the market has kind of shown third parties like, hey, if you want to sell your games on here, this particular audience still appreciates physical media. And the thing is, if you don't mind the digital game of having to download it on there, you're probably just going to buy it off the eShop. Like why would you bother with a game key card if you're already planning? Let's say you have a 512 gigabyte SD Express card and you've got room on your Switch. You're just going to get it on the eShop. Why would you bother with a game key card? It
needing to carry, because you have to still physically carry it. So it's just like, why? And, they probably noticed, wow, we sold this many consoles, but the software sales aren't really there. And I got to say, sure, maybe it's people that are voting with their wallet by not buying these game key cards, or some of them. And I'm not saying that all of that sales data is, public, maybe it is. But either way, it's like some people might be falling back to playing their old Switch games, or, getting stuff on sale that's like used games or whatever. And so I got to say, because it's backwards compatible, like that should be in the consumer's favor in terms of helping that whole, contributing to that conversation of, hey, maybe they work with that other company that makes the cards and they come to an agreement on a price or something, and now everybody's kind of
maybe
happy.
Nintendo steps in and says we'll eat the cost of
we'll offer
because
it.
we know that our gamers want physical. We want to help you sell your games here. So there's going to be a lot of handshakes and backroom talks to try and figure this out.
I can see that.
I'm pretty confident that game key cards will become less prominent as the Switch 2's life continues, because nobody likes it, and it's become it's right now it's probably the biggest issue facing Switch 2 right now, is that almost like 90% of third-party games are game key cards and nobody likes them.
You know what? I actually have a very funny solution, but it's not what people are going to want, especially because, like you said, right? Why not just buy digital? But Dude, if they made game key cards just slightly cheaper, and I just mean like, let's say if it's 60 or 70, maybe you get 20, 15 or 20 bucks off or something like that, respectively. And it's like, at that point, people might buy that game key card. Or who knows, maybe game key cards only do better, which is not going to be good for whoever sells them
on the resale
as a
market.
used product. Exactly. As at a resale. And it's like,
That's one of the few benefits of a game key card is
that
the
is,
selling and trading,
that's
which
right.
hurts the third party's bottom dollar. So it is kind of weird that it became so popular with the third parties in the first place, because it's like it was so short-sighted of a solution to where it's like you realize you're going to sell maybe 100,000 copies of this game. People are going to play it, beat it, and sell it, and you don't get to make any of that revenue back because now somebody's just going to go to GameStop and buy that game key card used. Which, granted, you could still do with a physical copy, but you're also having to deal with the fact that there are people that say, I'm not buying this new. I refuse to pay for it new because of what it is. I will wait for a sale on the eShop, or I will get it used,
Right.
which then gives them zero.
Exactly. And it's like, you know, I'm not surprised that people feel strongly about this, especially collectors. And
100%. I agree. I wasn't like a fan of
yeah,
it to begin with. I understood it, and it made sense to why it
but
exists.
to have a game breach the $70 like ceiling that we were so used to having, and I don't mean to bring that whole conversation in, I'm just saying as like a side comment, to have that be in the release. Remember when they announced the Switch 2, and it's like having that in the same kind of, the follow-up video was the one that had that pricing, and then the game key cards at the same time, and it's like, dang, that was kind of a heavy hit from both sides.
Oh yeah.
Kind of tarnished the excitement of using the Joy-Con as mice, in my opinion. It was a bit of a rocky, going back to how this whole, you brought up the topic. It's like, it's been a bit rocky. Obviously there's some, people are feeling.
It's not a perfect console. There's issues with it, of course, and that's what we're looking at now. We're looking at the launch of the Switch 2.
Right, and the titles, going into that, it's like, man, we could talk about that. Where it's like, do we have enough games for you to go, I want to buy the console to play this? And it's totally fair if people did, because obviously, what is it? What's the number?
Yeah.
It's like 3 or 6 million.
It's 6 million in the
6 million?
first, more than 6 million units as of the end of June. I think it was like 5.86 million as of June 31st or something. But then like a week later, Nintendo was like, "Oh yeah, it's broke 6 million." So in terms of launch from a company perspective, it's the biggest launch of all time. You and I predicted this. We knew it was going to be big just because of the hype and excitement of what it was. It's literally everybody's dream sequel to the Switch. More powerful hardware, more refined hardware. So we got that. But the games, let's talk about the games. So in terms of, is this the best Nintendo console launch of all time? I'm going to go ahead and say straight up no. I think the Switch still has it. Well, for the launch itself, I would still put the Switch above it. The Switch 2 does have good volume for like the day one releases, if you count like the upgrades to Switch 1 games. So like the 12 titles that got free ones, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom were immediate upgrades, which were free if you had the pass. And of course, all of the Switch 1 games that just instantly ran better. But in terms of new experiences, and that's the key, new experiences. So we're getting a lot of ports. Cyberpunk, we got a port of that. The Yakuza games, those are ports. Bravely Default is an HD port of a 3DS game. That was the game I was most excited for at launch. The Rune Factory, that's a new experience, but it's multi-plat. So there weren't a whole lot of brand new experiences for the Switch 2 in its initial launch window, and even now, like it's mostly ports. Persona 3 Reload, that's been out already on PlayStation, Xbox, PC for a while.
Yeah.
There's very few games that stand out as this is a new thing. Donkey Kong Bonanza and Mario Kart World obviously are the marquee titles. We've got those, and they are good new experiences. But that's kind of it.
What's that new Switch sports game with the like wheelchair?
Oh, Dragon Drive. It's not good.
There you go, man. I didn't even know the name because it kind of lacks a bit of personality, in my opinion. I think it would have maybe stuck out to me as something I was interested in if it was maybe identifiable. Sorry to be like that about
Yeah.
it, but like,
No, I agree.
it's,
It has no identity. It's just some generic looking robots in a wheelchair.
yeah.
Can you
And then
imagine if they had put like Chibi Robo on there or something, or like I don't know, like because even Switch Sports had an identity because it was similar to the Wii Sports where you had your Mii's, you could customize them and unlock outfits for them. There was more of an identity there, but these are
it's like
just generic
you
robots.
you could have since
Arms
the
even.
since the UI is still the same and they have Mii's since the Wii still in the system. It's like, dude, they could have just used those characters or the new Wii Sports like guys. Like they should. There's a couple ways this could have gone where like
Yeah.
it's an IP. Like this is, it's like you want it to be good, right? Like talking about more in parallel with this, the PS5 launch titles, where it's like, Astro's Playroom. Obviously, it wasn't the very beginning of Astro's story. There was the VR1 version of it on PS4, but then Astro's Playroom being a pack-in game, but then also Demon Souls, Sackboy, Godfall, just to name even just a few, right? It's like
Spider-Man
Spider-Man, Miles
had
Morales
the
was.
remaster and Miles Morales, so
That's
there
right.
were some good experiences.
There's a lot there, right? Destruction All Stars, but we don't really talk about that because I think it became free on PS Plus very soon. But either way, it's
Yeah.
like, okay, cool. There's not a lot, but there's some nice heavy hitters. Like Demon Souls is a pretty big one. Like I know
Oh yeah.
people like when they heard and saw what it looked like how good it was, because Demon Souls was a kind of mid to late PS3 release, and it was highly regarded. Obviously people know, like, just being a Souls, it was probably one of the first Souls-like games. If anything, it was one of. It is
Isn't
the
it the first?
first.
I was
Yeah,
gonna say, isn't Demon Soul the first one before it became like they moved on to Dark Souls?
I believe so. I believe so, but I am not huge on that, so I don't want to speak like I know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, like, your lineup is pretty important, and it's like us knowing we were going to get a Mario game within the first 2 years was pretty big. And I know that Donkey Kong is technically like a Nintendo
It is
IP
the
like
Mario
that.
game.
It
Yeah.
is a Mario game. You've got similar team members that are working on Bonanza, and it's like, you kind of have to go, man, I hope they can build the energy up and then keep it
Yeah.
up, because that's what's been going on. That's why you talk so highly of, and anybody can, of the Switch right now. It's been awesome. Like, sure, it didn't start awesome because we had Breath of the Wild and maybe just a couple games, but it
That
man,
first year was magical, bro.
it
Like,
was
and look at
fire.
2017. Like, we got Xenoblade Chronicles 2, we got Fire Emblem Warriors, we got Super Mario Odyssey, Splatoon 2, all of that in the first year.
I think
And
Arms too, right?
yeah, Arms was there. The Mario Kart 8 Deluxe port, which
Yeah,
while it was a port,
that
it
was
was a
like
definitive way to play the
I
game.
think it was in June, so it was like 2 months after release that we got Mario Kart, I think, or is it maybe 1 month
I
after?
think that one was May.
Oh, yeah, it was May. I got it
It was
in June.
April
It
or
came
May.
out in May. Yeah,
Yeah.
something like that. But
Arms
anyway.
Arms was the June game, if I'm not mistaken. It was June or July that Arms came
Oh,
out. But like
yeah.
we're talking a major like first party game every single month. And it was just huge. Odyssey we talked about, Breath of the Wild was massive. Yes, it started as a Wii U game, but it was such an impactful game that it didn't matter that it had a Wii U port. It was the game everybody wanted to play on Switch because it was portable and it showcased, wow, this is a big open world like triple A game on the go. It really sold people on the concept of the Switch. And I'm just trying to think of some of the other big hitters that we had in the
Uh,
first year. We didn't have a Pokemon game.
I'm gonna cut in real quick. Um,
Before.
but yeah, I'm gonna say something about the GameCube emulator and how disappointing. I
Ooh.
love the three games. I think it's a good pick for first games. Don't get me wrong, but I got to be honest with how I feel about it. It's like you you could have come out with some. I mean, you showed us what's going to come out, right? They gave us like what 7 future titles or something, or I don't know.
It's like a handful, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, I wish we got like a bit more substantial games or something like that. And you already know we're going to get Sunshine, and like I think some of the Pokemon Coliseum games, and I think that's cool. But like, man, even just how long? So the Switch has been out since what was the June 4th or 5th?
June 5th.
June 5th. So it's already been July.
We've gotten 2 additional games. So I think the launch lineup was fine. The 3 games they picked were really good. We got the F-Zero, we got Zelda, and we got Soul Calibur 2, which was a huge surprise. We're not used to seeing third-party games in the Nintendo Classic. So in terms of the launch lineup for the GameCube, I will give them full marks. That was a fantastic starting lineup. Then in July, we got Super Mario Strikers, really good game, a nice way to cleanse everybody's palates from the disappointment of the Strikers game on Switch 1. And they just announced that Chibi Robo is going to be the August game. So I get where you're coming from. It has been a slow trickle, and I just want Fire Emblem Path of Radiance so I can play it already.
Instead of paying those boatloads for it to play.
$200. And Chibi Robo's in the same boat. That's another $200-$300 game. So.
Obviously, I know we can emulate, but it's like not the same.
That's not the same.
Yeah.
But like, I want more quicker. But at the same time, I can't really hate on what they've given us. You know, they're giving us heavy hitters. There isn't a single game on that list that isn't a substantial release. So my disappointment is in the pacing of it, especially because of the kind of a mini drought we're in terms of other games.
Yeah, that's really it for me. I'm complaining only because I'm being greedy. Like
That's fair.
I think it's totally a good pick, like I said, and you mentioned right now. It's like, yeah, it's good titles like to start off with, and
I just want more.
I just want more, man. And like, why can't you? You know.
And it's a new console, so they have literally the entire
we
library.
Didn't even have the emulator, the NSO, on the first 2 years of the Switch.
It's like 2018 or 19 that they did the NES Classic, right?
It took a while, and it's like, cool. You started with the GameCube, and you already have all these other libraries built out, and maybe that's why they didn't. Is maybe
that's
because
what's really keeping them afloat is the backwards compatibility.
It's the backlog.
They have everything.
Oh yeah. And like let's be honest, you know, like here's the thing: 6 million is great, but it's not even comparable to the 129 or 123 that are, you know, total sales or whatever. I think that's what it is. I could be completely wrong. I'm sorry. For Switch 1.
It's at 153 million.
153. Okay, yeah, so I'm off. It's my bad. I'm off by 30 or so. But it's like, you know, there's probably a substantial amount of people that just didn't get it either. And that's kind of who they're comparing to, right? They're comparing to themselves, especially knowing Nintendo and their mark of quality, their seal of quality, if you will. It's like they're going to compare to how they did last year on the last console and so forth, or their best year or whatever. And it's like, you know, keeping comparing launch cycles, it might not be very different right now. It might be, I would say it's probably way more successful just because the Switch was so new. We didn't know anything about it. With this Switch, it's like a lot of people buying it are buying it because they wanted a stronger Switch. And like, that's a really interesting aspect. Yeah, like they were sold before they saw the reveal. They were sold. They were like, oh, it's backwards compatible, sold. Like, I'm done. Like, please take my money. And then, you know, you move on, right? I think that's good. And as consumers, it's just, you know, it's a waiting game with some of those titles, and I get it. And
but here's my suggestion. Here's how we fix it, Soldier. I think the Switch 2 launch has been good, but not great. The launch window in terms of the games that we're getting. I'm kind of hovering around a B minus, maybe even closer to a B, because they are really, really leaning on the backwards compatibility and the backlog to kind of fill in the gaps right now. Here's how they could have taken this a step further and really, with what I would say would be minimal work, really get more people, you know, constantly engaging with, I don't want to say new content because it wouldn't be new content, but if they had just launched more free patches for old Switch 1 games during this period, I think that would have really helped at least the perception online of the anxiety of waiting for a new game. Because here's the deal. As far as I'm aware, there has only been one game since the launch of the Switch 2 that has received a patch since the initial batch of 12. And that game it's a big one. It's Splatoon 3, which came with the new season of content and everything. That got a 4K patch I want to say it was a week after the Switch 2 launch. So that was huge. And we even talked about this after it happened. I was like, man, this is great. I didn't know, we're getting right into it. Not even a week later, they're already announcing patches for Switch 1 games. But we've got nothing else since then, man. If they had announced once every 2 weeks or once every month even, a new Switch 1 game that's getting a performance patch, I think that would have really helped. And maybe even they had some, incentive program for third parties. Hey, I know a lot of third parties didn't get dev kits, but if you release a patch for your game just to unlock the frame rate and tell it to output 1080p handheld, get this out, that'll help customers that, maybe didn't buy the game.
For the games that can support it that don't maybe rely on a portable mode, which are more few and far between anyway. And it's we know on modded Switches it's possible. So it's there's stuff that can be done. I mean, Nintendo's going to be doing it with their own. Nintendo's going to be doing it with their own IPs. So it's not like the knowledge isn't there to be shared. And sure, it might not be just, a linear, hey, you just cross this box and you enter this code.
Hide the bars.
Right. It might not be a very copy paste thing, right? I get it.
Could be though, but that's the thing. They could do that. Even just as a stopgap. Say, hey, we're gonna work on a true performance patch, but in the meantime, we have a patch to unlock the frame rate and uncap the resolution up to 1080p or 2K, 4K, whatever. Even if it was just that, I think that would have been huge for a lot of people, especially on third-party games. I really wanted to see more updates to Switch 1 games, and I think that alone, even if there weren't more games, I think that would have really helped the Switch launch be more impressive, I'd say. Because think about it, dude. Think of it this way, Soldier. What better way to show how much better the Switch 2 is to the Switch 1 than running a Switch 1 game with the full power of the Switch 2? Dude, Breath of the Wild looks freaking magical on the Switch 2.
Yeah, and it's crazy because they actually got to go in and they're so familiar with their own code, We got it to be what people have been playing the Wii U version of it at almost. Maybe not as fancy with all the bells and whistles that people have been able to patch in, but man, to be in portable even like that and then getting it on the 4K and I just hope that they
60 frames.
I hope that they do improve their HDR on mobile.
Yes. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Because that's another thing we haven't really touched on that has been a big letdown of Switch 2. Tell me about it.
Yeah, it's just, it's one of those things where, obviously everybody has their own, not interpretation of HDR, but everybody's going to kind of see it a little differently where it's HDR, high dynamic range, maybe for those who don't know. And it's essentially making light inside of moving picture just more vibrant and pops out, right? For you to be able to see, and it looks realistic, right? It gives it a more realistic feel overall. And so with the Switch 2, you've got the LCD panel, apparently with some graded eyes and clinical eyes and such, and it's not even too hard to see it when you compare it with even just the Steam OLED model. It's you look at both HDR and it's not even comparable. It doesn't get nearly as bright, and obviously it's going to be worse when you're playing in bright areas, or maybe if you're putting it side by side, or if you just, again, have an eye for it and you're used to seeing it differently on the screen. Now, can you tell me in your experience using it on your LG C3, how have you noticed the HDR? Have you noticed the HDR? Or tell me about that.
So I'm probably not the expert on HDR, but it's on the TV. I had to tinker with it because I guess one of the big things that the Switch 2 had an issue with HDR is that it needs a setting HGIG to really be like properly set up with the dynamic tone mapping.
Yep. If your TV, if your TV supports that, hopefully.
Yeah, the C3 does. So thankfully, I was able to do
I know.
that. And so Mario
I
Kart
meant in
World,
general, but yeah.
yeah. So Mario Kart World in general looks really good with the HDR on the TV, but it did not wow me as much as I thought it would having it there. It
Okay.
is nice, don't get me wrong. It's gorgeous, and especially with like the art direction, it
Yeah.
looks good. So my issue with the HDR, at least in TV mode, is not even the product itself or how it does it. It's just how clunky it is to set up. Why do I have to go through forums and YouTube videos to find out that I need HGIG for the Switch 2 to
Right.
properly output
Or
HDR?
if you hit the if you have the scale for the HD calibration, why isn't the software kind of up to snuff where you can tell exactly how high you need to go in order to see what you need to see? And it seems like that seems to be a
Yeah,
bit of a point of contention as well, compared to like something like Xbox's HDR calibrator is awesome. It even gives you information you didn't like we're looking for. If you
yeah.
press a certain button combination, it's awesome. And I've used that one and it's been pretty successful overall. I got to say, sometimes I have to turn down the brightness because it's a bit bright. I was playing that Xbox Game Pass game Jusant by I think Don't Nod, and it was just like it felt like being on the side of a mountain, like with the sun right on you. And I was like, man, this is crazy HDR.
Talk about
Um,
immersion.
Seriously, you're over here just scaling this mountaintop, no big deal. And
Now
it's
you need
like,
actual real life sunglasses to scale the mountain during the
right.
daytime in the game.
Right, get a little kind of fall pad in front of you just in case. But yeah, I live in Vegas, so it's like I could just open my door and I've got full immersion right there, right?
There you go.
JK. But yeah, I don't know. It does seem unimpressive overall
Yeah.
from what people have said about it. And I know I don't have it, which is why I was asking you. And I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, that's really good info because I don't have that secondhand or that firsthand experience. And I think what did we play at your house?
We played a little bit of Mario Kart World. We
That
were
was it.
we were testing some like Switch One games. I know we pulled up The Witcher 3. We pulled up
Oh, yeah.
the Monster Hunter Stories, and those games don't have HDR. And I had Force HDR on. A lot of people say turn it off, but I thought maybe it would look bad. It didn't look bad to me with it turned on, but I don't have a trained eye for it to really notice the difference. But yeah, it is
I
a
got you.
half-baked feature, 100%. That's one of the big disappointments with the hardware itself. The screen itself is also, I don't want to even say subpar. It's not a bad screen. I think it's a solid IPS screen, but you even mentioned it earlier with the Steam Deck OLED model. It's no comparison with the Switch OLED model. It's no comparison in terms of overall colors and brightness and just quality. And even the
Yep.
the blurring issue. I did find one other game I noticed the blurring issue in. It's Ninja Gaiden Ragebound, which just came out, which it's a Switch 1 game, so I understand why maybe this is the case, but it irritates me. That game's a 30 frames a second game. Should not be 30, it should be 60. At least on Switch. But yeah, that's one of the only games I've noticed the blurring issue, but just in general, it hasn't been the best experience in portable, especially HDR. It is not an HDR screen. I don't care what Nintendo says. I'm not even that picky. Like I said, I'm not an expert with HDR. Even I can tell that that thing is not an HDR screen.
I saw do you remember the Digital Foundry like pic of how it compared to other HDR like potential screens and like the quality of HDR and like it
Yeah.
kind of scaled up? It was a crazy scale just to see how low that screen was. And not that it's like, again, you said, it's not like it's a bad screen, right? Like
It's
I would
solid.
say it's very similar to the Switch screen, like the launch Switch screen. Like,
Yeah.
but here's what's interesting is the launch Switch screen and the Switch lights, as you recall, I'm sure, it's like you're getting varying quality just because of their lack of quality control with the displays. So you can end up with a very warm, neutral kind of.
Yeah.
Remember that whole thing where we tried to get the
Lottery.
right. Yeah, where it is a lottery. You go buy one and it's like, oh wow, this looks like piss warm, which is great for movies but not gaming. So it's like, oh man, I really don't want that. I want a maybe cooler screen or whatever, right? And again, some people might not have the clinical eye or care about all of that. So at the end of the day, 6 million, you can't snuff at that. That's a pretty good number. And I do hope that just like we got a V2 with better battery life, we got a V2 with a better screen, and maybe anything else that could improve the over. I don't know about OLED. Even if it was just I don't know. Maybe they don't even say much, right? Because remember, the Redbox Switch didn't promote anything. It was the same price. It was the only time we knew about the better battery life and the more efficient chip was because some people tested it out and we're like, hey guys, this one compares differently and it's better. And it's like they didn't go, hey guys, the better model than the launch model. They just said, oh, it's the same price. We kind of ate it, fixed it. Here you go. Or in their case, they made it more efficient, so that should have been cheaper actually for them to produce.
That did leak though before the Switch Lite came out. The Marico chip that they were using, which was, I believe it was on a 16 nanometer die instead of 20, which because it's smaller, less heat production and it drains battery less as well. So yeah, it was a big deal. It almost doubled the battery life from the base Switch, and it was nice. And
it was
that
crazy.
was the chip they used for the rest of the Switch generation, going on to even the OLED and the Lite models. So yeah, I definitely would like a V2. I want a better screen as well, which in those V2 Switch 1s, there was a better screen. The calibration was still hit or miss. You can still roll the dice on that. But it was a genuinely brighter screen. It went from, I believe, 400 nits on the base model to closer to 500. It was noticeably brighter. It reminds me of, do you remember the Game Boy Advance SP? They had the ASG00 and the 01 model.
It's AGS, and 001 is the side lit or front lit rather, and then you've got the AGS 101, and that does have the backlit.
It was brighter, and it had two brightness settings instead of just on or off. It looked so much better.
It didn't go completely off. Right. There were some late versions of the DS Fat that could be updated to that at a firmware level, which is very, very, very niche. That's a very niche nugget of knowledge.
I didn't know that.
If you ever cared to know that. And so imagine those DSs, basically a fat DS with a DS Lite screen where it has that, 3 different, I think, brightness levels. It goes like bright, brighter, brightest type of thing. And I wish they turned off, to be honest. Anyway, that's just a side note. And that's a very good example, though. I'm glad you brought that up, because it's like, oh man, when's that going to happen? If it does happen, I wonder how long we have to wait.
Let's route back to talking about the Switch 2 launch for a second. One of the other things that really has been a disappointment from the game's launch standpoint, there are no games taking advantage of the 120 hertz output, whether that be through a super high quality mode or super high performance mode with 120 frames a second, or by using that as a means to get a nicer 40 frames a second mode like Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk is the only game that has any use for the 120 hertz screen. I did see a rumor that, I think it was Ease 9 Monstrum Nox has a 120 frames per second mode, but I have not been able to verify that yet. And I'm not going to count Welcome Tour, because it was one mini game where they were just showing it off. But yeah, one game has used the 120 hertz screen / output when docked to any effect, and I really thought we would see more of that, because I'm not naive. I know there's not going to be a bunch of AAA games pushing 120 frames a second on the Switch 2. That's just not reasonable to expect. But you got Tetris with Tetris in 120.
Upcoming Metroid Prime 4 probably will.
It is going to be the first one, yeah. But that's it though. We don't even know when that game launches, bro. Yeah.
And it's gotten delayed so many times. It's such a sad mess. Thing. I hope we get it by beginning of next year. I don't know if it'll happen in the fall of this year. I feel like we would have probably already heard about it, unless they want to kind of closely shadow drop, or just be like, hey, shadow announce, here's the date. And it's like, what if it's
2 weeks after?
What if it's what if it is the GameStop, where it says oh, God of War 6, and then it says like next year, but then like 12/31/2026 or something like that. And it's like,
Oh, the placeholder.
yeah, the placeholder. That's the word I was looking for. I'm sorry, but it's like, what if it's like it actually releases the 31st of this year, and they just didn't know how to say it, or maybe they don't know
That
yet,
would
right?
be really funny because in their financial investors meeting, Nintendo doubled down saying that it is going to launch this year. I mean, that's probably going to be the first game that really utilizes 120, but while I didn't expect many games to use 120 frames a second, I thought we'd see more like third-party games try to use that as a in-betweener mode with 40 frames a second, since 120 splits evenly into 43 times. Your 40 goes into 123 times. So I was hoping we'd see more of that. So like maybe, if a game on the PS5 can reach 60 frames a second in its performance mode or just standard if it didn't have it, maybe a Switch 2 port wouldn't get to 60, but it offered the ability to just switch between a 30 quality mode or a 40 frames per second performance mode. I don't know why we haven't seen that. Like that's to me was the biggest sell of a 120 hertz screen is now they can do 40 frames per second games that can't quite reach 60. It still looks so much better than 30 FPS.
They really do. And I mean, like, even just, I don't know, there's levels to it, like even just improving. Like, let's say you don't bring an older game to 60, maybe you give us like a cool 44, or you do something like that, or, brings me back to the PS4 days. The PS4 launched and it actually did not support HDR out of the box. I think it
Yeah,
took a
they had to
year and a
patch it.
half and they patched it, and it was a software thing. It did have the hardware for it, which kind of gives me some modicum of hope for the Switch 2, where we've got the HDMI 2.1 capabilities, but they're not being tapped into similarly.
And I haven't noticed VRR on the other hand either. So that's another thing. But yeah, we're just gonna have to wait to see if anybody utilizes that 120 hertz output or VRR. You mentioned patching in HDR for PS4. I fully expect VRR to be another thing that they patch in for the docked mode on Switch 2. But I mean, hey, even looking at 120 hertz output, will companies even take advantage of it?
Yeah, I don't know. Overall, it's just growing pains, which is fine. Like, I get it, like it's kind of like that with everything that they've come out that has a slight, bump. And obviously, I don't think the Switch 2 is a slight bump. It's not a DSi, it's not a Game Boy Color, this is
Right.
a next generation.
A real
Yeah. And I mean,
generational leap.
it's kind of funny because I look at the 2DS, and the naming convention is really interesting, right? Because it's 3DS. So it's like, I remember how funny
2DS is a clear step down from 3DS because 2 is less than 3.
the people at GameStop hated when the 2DS was released because they had to explain what it was. That it was a 3DS, but it was called 2DS because it played 3DS games, but not in 3D.
Yeah, people thought it was like a separate console. I mean, I could forgive Nintendo for that one. That one, at least, it made some modicum of sense where it's like, okay, 2DS, 3DS, part of the same generation. One plays games in 3D, one plays them in 2D. But it's way better than, the new Nintendo 3DS XL and DSi.
Using
And
the
like,
word new.
they needed to get their
Yeah.
shit together. Yeah,
I
I
hate
hated
new
that.
like that. That's a very Apple thing. I think Apple does that with, is it every iPad? I don't know. It's like with the third generation, I think, or the Air, something like after a few revisions, they just call it the new. And I'm like, just call it 14th edition or whatever.
Right.
Like,
Keep it simple, stupid.
let us know that it's not last year's chip, or did we get last year's chip? Because now they're doing that with iPhones, which is kind of sad. But yeah,
Yeah, so if you get a new 17, you're getting basically a 16 Pros processor, which is
yep.
smart for business,
No,
but
yeah,
from a
it makes sense.
consumer, it's a little scummy because it's like you're getting last year's hardware.
It is scummy, but we could talk about phones all day, so we could just keep going back. It's all good.
Right. I'm not in that industry anymore. I've moved on.
Our hearts are in it, though.
True.
Oh man.
True. Anyway, we've talked a lot about what our problems with the Switch 2 are, or what its growing pains are, which is a funny thing to say about a console that just broke every sales record for its launch with over 6 million units sold. But let's talk about some fun stuff we're excited for. So I'm just gonna say this: September is gonna be a massive month for the Switch 2. I don't think it's a surprise to anyone that we're probably going to get a Nintendo Direct in September. We have for every year since like 2015. That's kind of like when their E3 is. That's usually when they announce their biggest games, what's coming out on holiday, and what's to look forward to next year. So a lot of games we know about don't have dates. We briefly touched on that third-party Direct, the partner showcase, excuse me. One thing that seemed odd to me is they had a trailer for Age of Imprisonment, Hyrule Warriors, but it didn't reveal a release date. I'm like, what's the point of having it here then? It was so bizarre to me to have that there without a date.
It got us hyped for nothing.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. What just came to my mind that I have to blurt out?
Do it.
I'll never forget Inkling's face when we first found out we were going to get a Smash Brothers game for the Switch 1.
What
that was such an
reveal.
iconic... Dude, what an amazing time. And that was something else that coincided with the Switch's life span that we got to witness and be a part of, engage with, is seeing the reveal trailers of like a new character, or like, dude, just seeing Smash Ultimate be made was awesome. And then the fact that we got characters we never dreamed of, and it was actually very like groundbreaking. Now, obviously, we had some reveals for the Wii U edition, I think, too, right? Didn't we have some back then during the Wii U?
That's when they started the whole DLC. The first character.
That's when they started that. Yeah,
they announced was Mewtwo.
Okay.
They were like, oh, we're bringing back Mewtwo.
Right. We got Ridley too, right? I think back then.
That was in Ultimate.
Is that Switch? Oh, okay,
That's
Ultimate. Okay. Who else was in? Robin, maybe?
Robin was a new character in Smash 4, but it wasn't a DLC character. So for Smash for Wii U, aka Smash 4, what a dumb name, by the way. Can we talk about that? Super Smash Brothers for Wii U. No, that's stupid. But we had Mewtwo was the first character. Hey, okay, but yeah, you have Mewtwo as the first character. That was a big deal. We also had Ryu was a DLC character. Man, I'm blank. Cloud was freaking massive. We had Cloud.
Wait, didn't we get Bayonetta back then?
Bayonetta was a DLC character.
Was the last one, right? I think she was the last.
I think so. Yeah,
DLC
she
character
was the last
before
one,
Ultimate.
and she ruined the game. But
yeah, I heard all about that from you and many.
You're thinking of Corrin. Corrin was a DLC character.
Corrin is who I thought of.
Lucas,
this makes more sense.
Lucas, Roy, Ryu, Cloud, Corrin, Bayo, and Mewtwo. Those were the DLC characters.
And did they appear on the 3DS version of Smash 4 Wii U?
Yes, you could get them for both.
Oh, okay, cool. How amazing! Can we talk about that briefly? How amazing that we got a portable Smash before Smash Ultimate. Like, how cool. Man, they really worked hard on that game, too. Like, it's not just
I always dreamed of it.
It was.
Wanted
it's
a portable
crazy.
Smash.
I wonder if there's a small community out there that just plays the 3DS version.
Dude, you could still find matches all the way up until they shut the servers down. I used to jump on just for old time's sake, just to play a few games. Like, it was solid, you know. The problem is, and once Smash for Wii U came out, like the 3DS version basically became obsolete, which is a bummer. Unless you were taking it on the go. You could play it on the go, but it wasn't as like good to play because of the controls. But it was nice to have a portable version, full-fledged version of Super Smash Bros. And then once the Switch came out, you know, now every Smash game moving forward is also a portable version.
Exactly, which is a wonderful thing. I like the fact that we had that, like, just the reveals and the hype and the build up, and like, I wonder which character. Like, I'll never forget the Sephiroth and
so
Persona 5 Joker. Like,
massive.
Those two reveals are probably my favorite, and they were so huge. And like, you know, I love the closing character with being Sora, and like how meaningful that is if you're a Kingdom Hearts fan, and like really loved just how much care like that game got during that generation.
Yes.
And I think that's what we need in Switch 2 is, hey, no, I'm not saying come out on another Switch, or I'm sorry, Smash game and like
What
whatever,
about Mario Kart
but
DLC?
we need
Let's get some stuff from Mario
we
Kart
need
World.
something that has that life. Yeah, that game, man, 8 Deluxe, really, they kicked it. They blew it out of the water with
It
how
did.
they. I mean, sure, not all the DLC like tracks were really good. Like there were some mediocre ones, but overall, I gotta say, all the added content was just delightful.
It's a
Like I
complete
love,
package.
even still to this day, playing. Oh yeah, and what, Mario Kart World will get many more. I'm not saying
Yeah.
that it won't. I'm sure it will, and it'll be an impressive game at the end of its life, because it already
Yeah.
mostly is. And yeah, it would just be nice, man. With fighting games like Smash, it's just a whole different ball
Oh yeah.
game. And having that fan base, it's a huge fan base first of all, and then imagine if, I don't know, maybe it's something completely different. Just maybe not a failure like Arms. I'm sorry, Arms. We love you, Arms. I love the
Yeah.
concept of Arms. I love that we even got one of the characters, Min
Oh
Min,
yeah. I think that was
in
awesome.
Smash. That's awesome. But it's like, we need more of that, right? Give us more style. Give us more originality. We love games like that.
100%. And speaking of fighting games, I'd love to see like a Xenoblade 2D fighter or Fire Emblem 2D fighter game, like kind of like Marvel vs. Capcom, or let Arc System Works develop. They're getting good with letting third parties use their IP. That would be such a cool collaboration if they let something like that happen, where it's, you have your platform fighter in Smash, that's not going away, but like maybe try a different, like a traditional health bar fighter, 2D fighter, or I'd like Xenoblade Warriors.
Yeah.
I'd even take that. I think that would be a lot of fun, even if it's not a fighting game, but just something different from their IP, from what they traditionally make. But going back to kind of what we're looking forward to, obviously Smash is going to be huge whenever that happens, but in the near future, we did get a couple Switch 2 announcements outside of, what we've gotten the main one. So the Atelier Ryza trilogy, the what is it? The Secret trilogy, they call it. It's getting a DX trilogy version on Switch 2. I will be getting that. I think it comes out in October. I'll finally play those games because I've been waiting for 60 frames per second versions on Switch 2 to play them. So that's going to be big. I am looking forward to Age of Imprisonment. I think it's going to be phenomenal. And I really hope that Age of Calamity gets a Switch 2 free patch. I'm still disappointed we haven't seen anything since Splatoon 3. But
Yeah.
this is hot off the presses. Masahiro Sakurai tweeted like less than an hour ago talking about it being the 20th anniversary of Sorico, which is his company. And he also mentioned, we haven't even shown any game screens for the new Kirby Air Rider yet, but we expect to be able to release more information on it soon. Please wait. And this...
Maybe the next Direct will have something about
Exactly. And it's no surprise to anybody. We mentioned it. Probably going to have a September Direct, and the expectations for that are sky high after the Indian Partner Showcase. So that it's happening, and we're going to get dates for everything. Finally, we're going to know if Metroid Prime 4 is going to make the launch year of the Switch 2 like it's supposed to. Legend ZA is coming soon. That's going to be a big game. I think Metroid Prime 2 and 3 have a chance to also just kind of sneak in. I think there's going to be you mentioned it earlier, there's going to be a lot of games in this upcoming Direct that are either going to be shadow dropped or, oh, by the way, it's out next week. I fully expect that. What do you think?
I don't know, because you know what? I think yes, only because I don't know if they'll ever give as much love as they did to Metroid Prime 1 with a remaster for Metroid Prime 2 and 3. Like, now with the GameCube emulator, you may not need to. And you can just drop it on NSO and have those games there. And it's like, why not then, right? Just go play them. They're available. What if they did a drop with 2 of them and then maybe like a sports game? That would be kind of cool. Or they sprinkled it out where it's like maybe just one, and it's bundled with 2 other games.
Well, Metroid Prime 3 was a
But yeah,
Wii game, wasn't it? Metroid Prime Corruption, because that was a Wii
you know
game
what?
originally, so they can't even put that one on there. 2, I could see them doing. They could say, "Oh, here's Metroid Prime 2," and maybe they do a remaster of 3 later on or something. What do you think?
Is 3 Wii only?
Yeah, it didn't come out on GameCube.
Oh, you're right, because it's, I think, Echoes is the second one,
Yep.
right?
That's the second one.
And then it's Corruption, that's the third.
Yep.
I just realized, yeah, it had the trilogy disc or compilation on Wii as well, where you could have all 3 and play them with gyro or, with the Wii motion controls.
Can't wait to try that with the mouse controls, by the way. Hey, Metroid Prime 1, we mentioned that's a fantastic game with a lot of love put into it. Why have they not built up hype for Prime 4 by saying, hey, by the way, it's got a Switch 2 patch now. You can play it in 4K on Switch 2.
Dude, that would be so
slam
easy.
dunk.
It's like
what are we doing?
And I feel like I understand the whole like resources and how they have them allocated, like what teams are working on future projects, maybe current projects, and maybe barely anybody brainstorming. It sounds like nobody's working, taking a risk, and it's like, how much of a risk is it to really patch an old game like that with this much? That remastered was loved, and that they know that that game was loved. They made so many copies of it. I love that it's not like rare or anything like that right now. You can still buy one for pretty decently priced.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, real quick, I have to say, man, what if we get that Wii emulator on NSO for like next year? That would be really cool as like a next year thing where like, maybe next summer or like June or July of next year. And it's like, by the way, there's a Wii emulator in the works, or it's launching now, or like, by the way, here you could play Wii Sports like the original stuff, and people are just lining up to play Wii Sports original, or
that would be wild.
And these 2 other games, and like, can you imagine them just starting off with like, hey, just like the Wii started out with Wii Sports, you get this, and then you got these 2 other titles or something, and it could be
version.
Right, Link's crossbow training, right? Everybody's favorite.
We don't talk about that. Leave that one in the archives.
But anyway, yeah. So you get it. Like, it's like, why not? Why not bring some of the old, breathe new life into these older titles? And it's like, all we want is to play them on our fancy 4Ks.
Exactly. And it just feels like a missed marketing opportunity to say, hey, Prime 4, it's coming out this holiday, but in the meantime, why don't you check out Prime 1 in glorious 120 frames a second? And just going back to my earlier point, like, that would have been an easy way to have something on the market that's a true 120 frames per second experience. Play that and be like, wow, what a difference this makes. Switch 1 could never do this. I can't wait to play more games like this that have a 120 frame a second mode.
Exactly. It's only going to bolster sales. It's only going to, like, of the console, or, I mean, if you have like a nice little group of games that are just better on Switch 2, that's amazing. But then if you have a whole swath and it's just continuing to grow and people are seeing, wow, look at how much old support is being released. I'm so glad. Like, now I want to buy one just for the like upgraded power, at least while the games come out for the next few years, and maybe they make a new revision and they do all that. What do you think of the Switch Lite? Do you think people are very fed up? I've noticed anybody mentioning the Switch Lite version, like the Switch 2 Lite.
I think it would be great, honestly, because the Switch 2 is so much bigger that there's a bigger difference now because it's so much larger than the Switch 1. That I think we talked about this in the last episode too. There'd be a lot of added value in making a Lite version, just because there'd be a bigger difference. And please, all I'm asking, just make it dockable. Make it dockable. My money is yours, Nintendo. I will gladly buy a Switch 2 Lite.
I know. It just doesn't sound like it's good for profit. I'm so
It's another hardware revision. They love their hardware revisions, and that's what got Switch 1 to 153, all right? I got to correct some info I gave you earlier.
What's up?
I said that the only game that has gotten a Switch 1 patch since the initial batch of 12 was Splatoon 3.
Yeah.
I totally forgot. We just got another patch. It's for Dragon Quest PS3 HD 2D. So I need to buy that game now.
Wow. Does it do 60 then?
Yep, 60 frames.
That's really good. I'm so happy for that because
And
that game, I think, it's what?
I was just going to say that is also the only example of a third-party game doing a free update.
Oh.
Outside of like ones that launched afterwards. So like No Man's Sky got a free update, but that was kind of part of the Switch 2 launch. So it's like, I don't really count that. It's basically got a native Switch 2 version that they kind of...
Good on Hello Games for still freely supporting a game that came out in 2016.
No, I agree with you. It's one of the biggest comebacks.
That's 9 years of support. I hear Fortnite is also pretty good on Switch too.
It is solid. It's not as good as, say, the Series S version of the game, but it is an acceptable port. Switch 1 port was so bad, man. It was unplayable. I can actually play the Switch 2 version and enjoy it. I'd still probably rather play it on the Xbox Series X just because I have that. But if you're playing in handheld, it's a solid experience, man. They did a good job with that port.
I'm happy to hear it. I've never played it. I've turned it on and stuff, but like I've never gotten into it. But I know people who play it and they really liked it. But anybody who's played the Switch version, it takes some adjusting to if you've played anything better. And if that's all you've played, then more power to you, or less power to you.
Yeah, it's anybody coming from Switch 1 will appreciate and notice the difference immediately.
Oh yeah, exactly. Anything else going on? Like anything else you wanted to touch on?
Yeah, man, there's a lot to look forward to. I really think that if we don't get one by the end of August, I don't think they will give us a direct in August. I think they're just going to stick to September like they always do. It's going to be as big a direct as the original Switch 2 direct was back in April. I'm really excited. We're going to get a ton of stuff. Switch 2 launch, been good, but not great. Sales, it's been literally as good as you could expect. But, there's just some holes here and there I would have liked to see more. They're kind of leaning on the whole backwards compatibility and third parties. There's a lot of third-party ports coming. But I want more. I need to see... Let's get that Metaphor ReFantasio. Let's get that Expedition 33 on there. Call of Duty. It's supposed to be on Nintendo. Yep. Where the hell is it?
That's the thing. It's not like there's a scarcity of options. It's really just, again, allocating resources, getting this stuff out there.
Yeah. It just feels like there should be more. The parity is there now. Yeah, we should be getting every game the other consoles get now.
Think about Steam, right? Like Steam has been so utterly successful just because of all of the launches that it's had in its lifetime outside of the Steam Deck. And then once the Steam Deck came out, like, man, it's like it got so much support and continues to get support for games we never even thought was possible on there the way it is.
And
it's like, okay, that should to Shift Up. I love Shift Up and what they did with that port. What an amazing game on Steam Deck. And you could try the demo just to see. And it's like, man, what's going on here?
Well,
Switch 2 is really powerful. And we don't have nearly the Switch. Now, there's a lot of interesting stuff going on with Xbox games coming out on PlayStation. And like, we've got that whole conversation where it's like, oh, so then we might see, imagine a Forza on Nintendo Switch. Like that could totally happen.
Helldivers 2.
It would be in Microsoft's benefit for them to have that, and then it would be in Sony's. Helldivers, get that over there. But like we have so many Sony games now on PC. Ghost of Tsushima, we've got the God of War titles are on there. The new Norse, Spider-Man. All of these titles we never dreamed years ago before a worldly event we never thought would ever happen, and now it's like. No more ruining the day. Now we've got Master Chief in PlayStation or whenever that happens, if it happens, right? So it's like
that was the tease for the Helldivers 2. That's a good
exactly
good reference there. Speaking of new things,
Yeah.
it's almost
Right.
like every other company is third party now. We're getting PlayStation on Xbox, Xbox on PlayStation, and it's like, all right, can we just get anything else on Nintendo now? Like, it just feels like the
Right.
theme of Switch 2 right now is untapped potential. It's there. I just need to see it realized, you know?
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, we could get some pretty crazy stuff, right? Like, we might see something awesome
We could.
happen where, like, we get, our minds blown because maybe it's not a Wii and NSO. Maybe it's if you have an old Switch, a Switch 1, you can link it with your Switch 2, like you could a 3DS to be a controller for Smash 4 Wii U. It's like maybe you could link up your Switch 1, play DS games on the TV, and have it on the bottom. And it's only compatible if you have another Switch. And because most households already have 2 Switches, which is kind of crazy to say, it's like they would benefit from having an app like that.
And honestly, that's
Oh,
what game
man.
sharing, like, the potential's there for that. Game sharing has the kind of infrastructure to
Right.
do it, which they also need to
Yeah.
improve, by the way. We've talked about it in our last
Oh, yeah.
episode, but
I
go
know
back
you
to the
brought
drawing
that up.
board, fix it, Nintendo. It's not good.
Well, we can go ahead and wrap things up here. Did you have any last thoughts?
Just keep your eyes on September, everybody. I know we're all getting a little antsy and impatient for the new games and dates for the announced games, and I'm kind of in limbo right now, waiting for my next big game, just kind of reviewing my backlog. But I think
Yeah.
September is going to be the make or break month for Nintendo, and knowing Nintendo and their history with September Directs, it's going to be a make, not a break month.
Absolutely. Lots of really good call outs. I'm pretty hopeful for next month. I think it'll be a great way to lead us into the very end of the year. Thank you for listening. If you've made it this far, we really appreciate you and your time. Please like the video or dislike it if you feel, and comment, and subscribe if you haven't. If this is something that you enjoy, please let us know. And yeah, thanks for joining us tonight. And thank you for joining me, Zero.
Of course, anytime. Take care, everybody.
Cheers.